Olivia Reed lived in a world where everything had a price and every problem had a solution, usually expensive, fast, and clinical. Her mansion overlooked the Pacific, her staff numbered in the dozens, and her influence stretched across boardrooms. In 3 continents, in her world, doors opened before she knocked, and silence followed her commands. She was an empire builder, but even empires crumble before the helplessness of watching your child suffer. Her daughter, Lily, was born with a rare neuromuscular disorder that left her legs paralyzed from the waist down. For 6 years, Olivia poured her fortune into research, trials, exoskeletons, neurologists flown in from Zurich, Tokyo, and Tel Aviv. Nothing worked. One specialist said Lily's condition was emotionally linked, that it wasn't purely physical. Olivia had dismissed him. Feelings couldn't replace function, she thought, but quietly, she broke each night, staring at the child whose smile never faded, even as her legs remained still. Olivia's days were defined by glossy appointments, private jets, and sterile hospital rooms. There were moments, in the back of chauffeured limousines, when she would reach for Lily's tiny hand and feel a flicker of shame that all her wealth, which had bought her power and position, couldn't give her daughter what most children take for granted. Every time, Lily asked, "Will I walk someday, Mommy?" Olivia's throat closed up. She told her yes. She never believed it. It was on one of these clinical journeys that the contrast revealed itself. Their Tesla Model X broke down in a no-name town halfway between LA and San Francisco. Their driver had wandered off to get help, and with no cell signal, Olivia found herself momentarily cut off from her assistants, from her advisors, from her usual sense of control. Jake Turner arrived 15 minutes later, riding a dusty old pickup truck. His uniform wasn't branded. His tools were in a metal box that looked like it had been passed down through generations. When he got out of the truck and tipped his cap toward Olivia, she instinctively straightened, unsure how to interact with someone outside her world. She wasn't rude, just disconnected. She introduced herself simply as Olivia. Jake didn't recognize her. That, in itself, startled her. As he inspected the car, Lily rolled down the rear window and peered at him. Jake smiled gently and said, "Looks like your spaceship's having a bad day, huh?" Lily laughed. It was genuine, light, and unburdened. Olivia looked over. She hadn't heard that laugh in weeks. Jake explained the engine problem to Lily as if it were a bedtime story. Pistons were soldiers. The battery was the brain. The oil, that was its emotions, keeping everything smooth. It was a ridiculous analogy, but Lily listened like it was magic. She asked questions, he answered, never talking down to her. Olivia found herself folding her arms and watching closely. When the car was nearly fixed, Jake stood up and said, "You know, my sister used to sit just like that. Legs never worked until she got tired of waiting for someone to fix her." Olivia raised an eyebrow. She wasn't the type to take unsolicited stories, but something in Jake's tone kept her from interrupting. She was about 10. Doctors said she'd never walk, but I made this clunky, ugly thing bunch of springs, bicycle parts, some Velcro, and a lot of hope. It wasn't pretty, but she laughed so hard while trying it, she forgot she was supposed to be broken. 2 weeks later, she stood. Then she walked. It was absurd. Olivia didn't even know why she kept listening, but she did. Jake packed his tools and said quietly, "If you want, I can show you what I made. Still have it back in my garage. Might not work, but never know." Olivia hesitated. She almost declined, but then Lily turned to her and whispered, "Please, Mommy." They followed Jake to his workshop, a wooden structure behind his modest home, surrounded by wildflowers and rusted tools. It smelled of oil and old dreams. The contraption was there, a fusion of walker, braces, and imagination. It looked like something from a movie set built on a tiny budget. Olivia's instinct was to pull Lily back, but Jake gently knelt in front of the girl and said, "Think we can make this thing believe in you." Lily giggled again and nodded. Jake adjusted the straps, supporting her small feet, her knees, her hips. The entire process took 15 minutes, during which Olivia stood frozen. Not because she doubted him, but because, for the first time in years, Lily didn't look scared. She looked curious, determined. When Jake gave the signal, Lily pushed forward. Just a little. The braces took most of her weight, but the movement, small, jerky, real, was undeniable. Her feet moved, her knees bent. Olivia stepped forward instinctively, mouth open. Another step, and another. It was awkward and uneven, but it was walking. Lily's eyes went wide. "Mommy, I'm doing it." And that's when Olivia dropped to her knees. Tears, hot, uncontrolled, unfiltered, ran down her face as her daughter reached out for her. Jake didn't say a word. He stepped back, wiping his hands on his jeans, pretending to focus on a loose bolt, giving mother and child their moment. In that garage, Olivia felt something break, something heavy and false. For years, she had lived in a polished world, where value was measured by digits, by charts, by global reach. But none of those things had helped her daughter walk. It had taken this place, this man, and this miracle born from kindness not status to achieve what the world's finest, COULDN, single quotes TOOTN, single quotes TOWTO, asterisk, and though she never said it out loud, she knew, she'd give away every billion, every company, just to see that walk again. Let me know if you'd like a voiceover script, a YouTube video outline, or if you'd like this expanded into a series-style emotional narrative, asterisk. Despite all the wealth, privilege, and advanced medical resources at her disposal, Olivia Reed couldn't buy the one thing she longed for most, the ability for her daughter Lily to walk. Her world revolved around numbers, precision, research, and investments. Everything in her life was measured in success metrics. She didn't lose. And yet, for 6 years, she'd faced a battle where money gave her no edge. Every specialist, every treatment, every promise made in shiny clinics across the globe eventually ended with the same sympathetic look. The same technical jargon dressed up to sound like hope, but they all meant the same thing: there was nothing more they could do. Asterisk. What Olivia failed to see, buried under charts and data, was that healing doesn't always come in the form of high-end solutions. It doesn't always look like brilliance or technology. Sometimes it looks like something far more simple: belief, patience, and a willingness to truly see the human being behind the diagnosis. That's what Jake Turner brought into her life. Asterisk. Jake wasn't rich. He wasn't a doctor or a therapist. He was a local mechanic, a man who lived in a small town few people passed through without forgetting. But he had something money couldn't buy: a quiet understanding of struggle, a history of watching broken things get fixed with time, care, and the right pressure applied in the right places. That philosophy, which worked on engines and axles, had shaped how he viewed people too. Asterisk. Jake never claimed to be a miracle worker. When he spoke about his sister, it wasn't with pride, it was with humility. He hadn't healed her. He'd simply refused to believe that she was finished. He'd looked beyond what the world had told her she could never do and built something from scraps, from intuition, from love. What he offered wasn't just a physical device, it was a belief system, a mindset that said, maybe you're not broken, maybe you just haven't been approached the right way yet. Asterisk. When Olivia watched Jake kneel before her daughter and adjust the straps on that odd-looking walking aid, she wasn't just seeing a mechanic with a quirky invention. She was watching a man act on a principle that had disappeared from her life. Belief in possibility that didn't require a scientific paper to validate it. Jake didn't measure Lily's worth by her limitations. He didn't approach her with pity or a list of things she couldn't do. He saw a child, curious and bright, and offered her a chance to play, to explore movement without fear. Asterisk. It was a moment of radical simplicity. Jake wasn't afraid of failing. He wasn't worried about protocols or backlash or liability. He just showed up with something he'd made with his hands and a heart open enough to trust that Lily would meet him halfway. And somehow, she did. Asterisk. The first steps weren't graceful or perfect, but they were real. They belonged to Lily. They came from her body, her muscles, her spirit rising to the occasion. There were no beeping monitors, no applause from a medical team, no signatures on discharge papers. Just the sound of Lily's uneven footsteps across a concrete floor, and the quiet gasp of a mother who had forgotten how to believe in small miracles. Asterisk. That contrast between the world Olivia had built and the one Jake lived in struck her with surprising force. Her world was built to dominate, to outperform, to fix problems with precision and speed. Jake's world moved slower. It made room for errors, for awkward pauses, for human mistakes. Where Olivia had thrown money, Jake offered time. Where Olivia had demanded results, Jake had offered attention. And where she had relied on others' expertise, Jake relied on his own belief in people. Asterisk. It wasn't that Jake had outsmarted the doctors. It was that he had approached the problem from a completely different place, one of humility rather than conquest. He hadn't tried to heal Lily. He tried to engage her, to give her something to respond to. And when she did, when her legs moved even slightly, he didn't celebrate as if he had achieved something great. He just smiled, as if he always knew she had it in her. Asterisk. There's something deeply human in that kind of confidence, not in oneself, but in others. Jake believed in Lily before she showed any proof she could walk. That belief was the foundation of everything, and that's what Olivia had missed for so long. She had believed in treatments, not in Lily. She had believed in doctors, in therapies, in plans, but she hadn't believed, really believed, that her daughter might find her own strength. If someone gave her the right kind of space, asterisk, that realization hurt. It also healed. Olivia saw, maybe for the first time, that all the effort she'd poured into saving Lily had come from fear of failure, fear of judgment, fear of losing control. Jake, by contrast, had nothing to lose. He wasn't trying to impress anyone. He wasn't trying to succeed. He was simply present, and in that presence he'd unlocked something extraordinary. Asterisk, the miracle wasn't the machine. It wasn't even Lily's first steps. It was the shift in Olivia's understanding that love, in its purest form, is more powerful than any solution money can buy. That being seen, truly seen, by another human being can do more for healing than all the machines in the world. Asterisk, she could never repay Jake for what he gave her, but she could learn from him. She could step out of her fortress of influence and begin to see her daughter as he did, not as a case to solve, but as a person to believe in. And she could begin to reclaim something she hadn't realized she'd lost: the ability to hope without proof, to trust without control, to believe without condition. And that was the true miracle.